to Horsefly Chronicles Radio with Julia and Philip Siracusa, sponsored by Carnation, airing live on the United Public Radio Network on 105.3 FM in New Orleans. This show's entrance has been edited, produced, and directed by Gwen Clapper from Perfect Trust Productions, LLC. You can find us at perfecttrustproductions.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Monday Night Segment Radio with myself, Julia Siracusa, and Phil Siracusa. We're broadcasting live from the International Public Radio and the United Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 FM from New Orleans. This evening's show is fully sponsored by Carnation, so we want to thank them for their sponsorship. We love them. You'll have to do a few things in order to participate. Go over to your YouTube channel, UFO Paranormal Radio or International Public Radio. You can also go into all of the Facebook stations, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, UFO Undercover with Joe Montaldo, News on the Flip Side, also Twitch, SoundCloud, Podbeam, and also go over to our group, Horsefly Chronicles Radio, and join if you haven't. And if you have any questions for our guests, please ask. So tonight, guys, we have an amazing guest who we are really looking forward to talking to. So please welcome Lester Velez to the show. He is going to be discussing his organization, OPUS, OPUS, alien abductions, and so much more. Lester joined MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, in 1991 and has held the following positions: field investigator, training coordinator for field investigators, the assistant state director in Northern California, chairman of AERC, that's Abduction Experiencer Research Committee, and team leader for our abduction response team. So please, guys, let's welcome Les to the show tonight.
Welcome. Hey, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me tonight.
Thank you so much for coming on.
This is going to be an exciting show. I like what I'm seeing over here. And I'm very big into the UFO topic as well. So what I'd like to ask the guest is take us to the beginning. Yes. I mean, how did you get started with all this?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, this whole thing started for me when I was rather young, about 11 years old. And I saw this object. This was a late October evening in Connecticut, where I lived at that time. And scared the hell out of me. I mean, it was this whitish oval object making no sound, slowly drifting over a tree line, and subsequently just kind of disappeared. But in the meantime, it scared the hell out of me. I ran in the house and tried to get my dad to come on out, and finally he did come out, and it was gone at that point. And he said, well, it's probably just a beacon of light reflecting off a cloud. Well, I did not really buy that story, and went to the libraries soon thereafter and started to pick up books on UFOs. And at that time, George Adamski was one of the big hitters in the UFO field, and so I started reading his books, and I was really quite interested in the whole thing. And then became an adolescent, and other things became more interesting in my life, such as girls, and decided to go on off to college, and got into the University of Vermont, and went into the ROTC program, and subsequently got married, and had a couple of kids, and 1985 moved out to California.
Oh,
and
man.
and the whole UFO subject really wasn't on the top of my thought process at all. And I picked up the San Jose Mercury News, and Stanton Freeman was going to be talking about UFOs and a government cover-up. And so that kind of threw a switch for me. I went to see him speak at San Jose City College, and I expected to see a handful of people there. And the auditorium was full, and he gave one of his inimitable presentations. And so on my way out, there was a table set up by MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. And so they have a journal that they produce on a monthly basis, and I decided to get that. And so I got the journal for a while, but then that wasn't enough. And I decided to take their field investigator course. And when I did that, that's when things got very interesting, because I started to investigate cases, and almost without exception, these cases were not only UFO type cases, but they were abduction type cases. And so that really started me on this path that I'm on presently, to try to help these people having contact with non-human intelligences.
That's very interesting. You said government cover-up of people with their abductions. So look, I'm going to ask you the question: why is there a government cover-up?
Well, I think they can't control anything. And, people that are in power don't want to lose that power. And therefore, it's just logical that they would not want to, present something to the public that they don't understand. However, that's changing now, with the UAP report that came out in the end of June, where now they're saying, well, it's not the Russians, it's not the Chinese, and it's definitely not us. So what is it? Well, we don't have evidence that it's alien related, but we don't have evidence that it's not alien related. So,
a double-edged sword of BS from the government. That's exactly what it is. No, I believe in aliens. I believe in abductions. That's why I ask you some of these questions. I myself had an experience years ago with an abduction. And I, you don't know if it's a dream state, you don't know if it's reality, and then you hear these other stories, but a lot of similarity to people that are having experiences, and everybody can't be hallucinating and having the same dream states where they're being chipped or taken somewhere, or they're seeing these gray beings that we don't know where they come from. So I think it's very interesting. And do you think the government has some of these crafts and beings?
Yeah, I do. I had a woman by the name of Helen Luttrell in our support group in San Jose. Backing up a little bit, after investigating all these cases where people, felt that they had been, taken by non-human intelligences, they asked if I knew of other people having similar circumstances in their lives. And so I said, yes, I do. And next thing I know, I'm facilitating a support group in San Jose at my office. And so one of the people that came to the group was Helen Luttrell. And she subsequently wrote a book called Rachel's Eyes, which was a story about her daughter, who actually had gone to school at Humboldt College with a hybrid, and she was, and the military evidently was bringing her specialized food to eat, because she couldn't eat normal food that you and I would eat. And so she was regressed by one of the board members of OPUS, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support. And that's when the book subsequently came out with the regression that was done and the stories that she related about her daughter going to school with this hybrid. It is a fascinating read, and really relates the story about the military being involved, that they have a base like 90 miles southwest of Ely, Nevada, that is set up to house these hybrids, and also to do crash retrieval type cases. Yeah, the military has been involved. There's no question about it in my mind. And that you have people that have had these experiences that have come forth. And so I highly recommend people look at that book. It's called Rachel's Eyes by Helen Luttrell. It's fascinating.
What's a hybrid?
I was going to ask that. What is a hybrid in your opinion?
Well, that's a really good question, and the fact of the matter is, we have no scientific proof that these people are hybrids, because we don't have a sample of hybrid DNA. Gary Nolan from Stanford University talks about that, where it's very difficult to say whether or not a person is a hybrid based on the fact that we don't have a sample of a alien's DNA. But people seem very, very convinced that they have this peculiar type of a situation going on with them, and they firmly believe that they seem to be hybrids. So it's hard to factually say that these people are definitely hybrids, but nevertheless, the feeling that they possess in that regard seems very strong, and therefore, you have to give them some credibility in regard to, especially when they start talking about how it occurred, or that they have, like one Cynthia Crawford, who's since passed away. She talked about it for many years, and she talks about the fact that she's been subjected to various examinations, and her body has peculiarities as far as physical peculiarities, as far as where her organs are, and they're in different places than they normally would be. And and she came away with that idea that she felt she was a hybrid. That's a hard one. That's a real hard one. I vacillate back and forth about it, but definitive proof. David Jacobs talks about the fact that the process of hybridization is to the point where you can't tell if I'm a hybrid or if you're a hybrid because they've done such a good job of the hybridization process, and they're actually calling these people hybrids, because you can't tell them from you and I.
It's interesting. There are people like yourself that would believe that they walk amongst us.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't tell the difference. And then I would always ask a question: what do they have to gain?
Yeah.
Like, what are they gaining by doing that? If they having that intelligence where you can fly in these crafts and at unlimited speeds and go through portals, what's the obstacle?
Well, I think there's a couple of scenarios that go along with this process, and one is that is it a possible alien invasion of some sort that is in process, whereby if they hybridize the entire population of the Earth, they don't have to come down and obliterate anybody or anything. They will be us, basically. So that's one theory. The other theory is that we don't know what the other theory is. truly. It's a real conundrum why that process is going on. Is it again? I think it has to do with the possibility that we're dealing with a race that is having issues, and they see that as a way for them to survive in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's not being able to be on their planet any longer for whatever reason, and so this is an easy way or a more peaceful way to integrate into our society.
I would agree. You said that our military knows. I guess a portion of the military knows, and the government knows, but yet the leaks that come out, they call leaks, right? Because all of a sudden there's this UAP program and all this other stuff. That's what they're calling it. So then they're spinning it, because if what you're saying is true, that the government and the military do know because of this one case and maybe many other cases, and they say, well, we're not sure if we don't think it's China, we don't think it's Russia, it could be other. Yeah. So then, quite frankly, we're being lied to, period.
Yeah, I think that, whether you call it a lie or just
well, if you're giving me leaks and you know something, that's a lie, right? If you're telling me something in drips and drabs, but you really know the information, so you're saying, okay, I'm going to keep the public, I'm going to tell them, give them bits and pieces, but we're not going to give them the whole picture. But yet, Israel, someone from Israel, one of the big wigs from Israel came forward.
Yeah, Haim Shed, the general.
Yeah, the United States government knows what's going on.
Yeah, he basically said, yeah, they're here. We're working with them, and we have bases on Mars, and it's been going on for a while. And the aliens don't want to make themselves known because we're not ready. And I think that's part of the thing. I mean, the Brookings years ago talked about the fact that, we'd have a real issue, like the War of the Worlds broadcast that was done, and we freaked out a whole bunch of people with that, and so it's but I think that 70% at least of our population would be fine with it. It's the other 30% that would probably have a real issue with the fact that, hey, they're here, and they have all these capabilities that we don't have, and that's an issue. I mean, that's truly an issue right there. I mean, but I think people say, well, they're going to invade and they're going to do all this. Well, I think they probably could have done this, eons ago when we were, picking bananas and fruit off of trees or something,
Yeah, true.
They could have done it a long time ago.
Yeah.
One question is, I see our spacecrafts out there and our astronauts have some pretty decent footage that was released within the last year. But the question is, none of the footage is clear. You see this black thing, they call it the Tic Tac. But nothing is clear. Why is that? It's because that's what the government is showing us, but they really have the clarity behind what we see like a blob floating in space, this thing, but we don't know what, you really can't make out what it is. Is it dust? Is it something else? Or does the government have the 4K picture of, no, this is what it really is, but we're not seeing it?
Yeah, there's been pictures that have been taken when the Atlas program was testing, and this object came in and blew the rocket up. That was quite clear as to what the object looked like and what it did. And I'm sure there's numerous other evidence, photographic evidence that we have that the public does not know about. And again, it's the bottom line is that I think they're trying to keep a lid on this thing as long as they can until they have a better understanding of what it is or how they might be able to control it. But right now, there's no way that they can control it based on what's happened. I mean, a la the Maelstrom Air Force Base and the missiles being shut down and things of that nature. I think that we have this big thing going on now with Russia and the Ukraine. If the aliens intervene here and shut down the Russians if they try to attack, that would be huge. And I'd love to see that. That would be amazing, and obviously proof that they're here and they have technology that is beyond what the hell we have.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. I definitely believe, and I always raise questions as a believer in my own experience as well. But I'm a firm believer that we're not alone. Everybody's not crazy, and these experiences, like the cows, for example, cows are being dissected with laser technology, and there's no blood on the ground.
Yeah.
Explain that one, right?
Yeah, I mean that's a phenomena that's a real question mark. And people have said, well, it's our military, but that doesn't make any sense at all to me, because if they wanted to get a cow, they could just pull up to some slaughterhouse and back a truck up and take as many cows as they need, and that would be it. But there's been evidence and proof from cattle ranchers that have seen the craft, put down a beam and suck up a cattle, and and then all of a sudden it comes flying back down, eviscerated and everything. Matter of fact, I was on a trip with my son-in-law a number of years ago, and we were on basically just kind of a vacation, kind of a camping trip, and we came across a steer that had the classic signs, and you could tell that this cattle was dropped on its head from high up because its horns were almost twisted off. Because it landed on its head, obviously. And so, what's the purpose of that? Maybe they like, tongue and rectum and whatever else, that they have a taste for. Maybe it makes a good stew or something. I have no concept of why they're doing that. But I think it's the Skinwalker Ranch situation is very interesting, because the Shermans who owned that ranch before the present owners, talked about this one incident where this calf was in a field right next to the owner, and he did something, and then he turned around and the calf was absolutely mutilated, totally mutilated. It was alive 1 second, he turned around and boom, it was gone, it was dead, it was opened up and eviscerated and everything. So there's something really strange going on, folks, and we don't understand it. And you have people like Bud Hopkins and David Jacobs that, talked about the fact that they're all evil. And then you got people that like Greer that talks about the fact that they're all good guys. Well, I think we have a mixture. I think we have both good ones and we have bad ones. And just like here on the earth, we have good people and we have bad people. And I think the same thing is going on, in this other reality, and even within races, because people talk about, well, the mantids are good and the reptilians are bad. And in fact, I think we have good ones in each of those, and also bad ones in each of those races. So you can't make, I think, a blanket statement that they're all good or they're all bad.
I would definitely agree with you.
That is true.
Let's talk about ghosts and aliens.
Yeah.
Because, we're paranormal investigators.
Yeah.
We live in a haunted home, and we deal with a lot of different teams from around the world. And a lot of the picture grades that you see an apparition of a ghost, right? Some that you have to rule out as optical illusion and matrix, and others look authentic. Like, this is what I see a boy, I see a girl, I see something. And then the pictures of UFOs seem to be the same grade. And then the question is, are ghosts, which evidently is us when we cross over at some form if we don't go somewhere else,
Mhm.
and the aliens, are they on that same plane?
Well, I think, let me just give you a little bit of information. We just finished a phase 1 of the Omega 4 study, where we went out to therapists that deal with people that claim to have contact with non-human intelligences. And what they came back and told us was that the majority of people are dealing with grays. Then the second thing that people are dealing with are orbs. The third thing that they're dealing with is interdimensional entities. And the fourth thing is ghosts. And that came up very, very frequently. And I'm a firm believer in that all of this stuff is connected in some way, shape, or form. So I don't think you can separate one from the other. I have a person that's in the support group. Actually, Lynn Monet. I don't know if you've had her on your show, but she's written a book. I can't think of the name of it right now, but she was dealing with one in her own home that turned out to be first a ghost. It was a young boy who evidently hung himself in the house, and so she saw this, this boy, and she got somebody to come in and release him so he could move on. But there was a demon in the house as well. And I mean, this creature was nasty, very nasty, and left marks on a friend of her, scratches on the backs and on her back and things of that nature. And so they brought in a specialist to try to exorcise the demon. And the person said that there was a ley line that was going through the house and through the neighborhood. And evidently other people in the neighborhood had issues. And she said to Lynn that, this ley line, these entities are coming up through the ley line. And so here's a situation that is ghost in one respect, and then a demon in another respect. And then Lynn has also had contact, with non-human intelligences, typical UFO type of a scenario. So it's very complicated. It's very complicated.
It's complicated. It's fascinating. I believe it because I know these things do exist, and it's hard to explain. It's just
oh yeah.
You can only prove so much and take people's word. Look, people say I've been abducted. Yes, if you're into the field and you know the checkpoints of what they went through, that they're telling the truth.
What would be some of the signs someone would show after an abduction, and why in your opinion is it happening to us?
Well, as far as the why, because that's a question that most experiencers, as I call them, ask, like, why me? And what we found is that it seems to be generational. There seems to be, if a person has an experience and they really start to dig into it, they'll find out that their parents had an experience or their grandparents had an experience. And so it seems like these non-human intelligence are following people through generations. And so what's the purpose of that? Is this basically an experiment that was started eons ago and continues, to this day, that they continue to be followed? People have always said, well, these, intelligences, what have you, if they're so smart, they all they need is just to come down and take one or two people, and then they don't need to bother with them anymore. but it's almost like what we do with animals. A scientist, a bio, marine biologist goes out into the ocean and pulls a dolphin out of the ocean, and they take blood out of the dolphin, and then they tag him, and then they throw him back into the water. So they take him out of his environment, his reality, put him on this boat, and then they throw him back. And a year later, they capture the same thing and pull him out, and they analyze him again, measure him, take another blood sample and check the tag and all this kind of stuff. So maybe it's a scientific process that's going on with these animals or us. They continue to do that, or it may be some kind of a training course that aliens are going through. The younger generation needs to learn how to do this. And so they come down and they teach them how to do this, and then analyze us and in various ways, whether it's not, taking eggs or sperm or, blood or what have you, and, probing us and sticking implants into us to monitor us. And that's a whole nother thing as far as the implants are concerned, whether or not they're monitoring devices. Some people have said they're monitoring for pollution in our bodies, or it's a tracking device, or it's a transmitting device. And just there's so many different possibilities that exist, but we don't have any definitive answers yet. I think there's a lot of people out there that may espouse a certain, feeling about it, but the bottom line, I think maybe they're all valid in some way, shape, or form, but we don't have a definitive answer.
How many forms are there out there of aliens? You said the Greys, the cryptids, the reptilians.
Well, what's interesting is that almost without exception, the Greys are involved with every incident. And it's almost like, the mantids and the reptilians and the Nordics and there must be some kind of a cosmic, phone store out there that they can go in and pick up a Grey and then utilize the Grey to interface with humans, because they're afraid to really interface directly with us because we're violent. We can be very violent. And I've had people in our support group that have told stories about the fact that they've bit these aliens, or ripped off an arm in one case. And so, you could see why these entities, the other races may be quite nervous about interfacing with us, but the Greys, they're expendable in a way. It's like an iPhone. Okay, yeah, we're gonna get our latest iPhone, and we're gonna utilize that to interface with the humans here. Because we don't want to get that close.
You know what? A skeptical question I asked myself, and I've asked others this, and this is now again, I'm a believer, but this is a skeptical question. Let's say we have 20 different forms of aliens out there, right? So I say, well, okay, so these 20 different forms of aliens that maybe come from different galaxies all have an agreement with the United States government not to show up in New York City over all of us, our buildings, and say, hey, we're here. So every one of these races has a deal with our government. There's the question, the skeptical question I ask, because let's just say we're talking about the Greys, and the Greys, have a deal with the government, and they're not supposed to show themselves because of mass hysteria and all that. But okay, then you got the cryptids, and you got the reptilians. You have so many going down the line that now everyone's got to deal with these governments. Is that possible, or is it that the government is actually controlled by these things?
Well, I think it could be a couple of different things. One, I mean, if they have like the United Nations, for instance, or it's a federation of some sort that all these entities are part of, that they've made an agreement that we're not going to interface with the human population at this point for various reasons, and so Haim Eshed, to the best of my knowledge, is an Israeli general that wrote that book recently. I don't know if he actually, because it hasn't been translated yet, so I don't know what the contents of the book are. But other than what he said briefly, whether or not this is one race that's involved with us, or is it multiple races? But it's like there's so many possibilities as far as how many races there are, number one, because there's a lot of conjecture about that. I've heard from 34 to 76 to 100 and some odd, different races that are here. Some are really good, some are really bad. The good ones are trying to help us. The bad ones are trying to blow us up in some way, shape, or form. It's just so many questions and not a lot of answers at this point. And so I think that we just have to be, cognizant of the fact and be careful about, how we move forward with all this information. And unfortunately, as I said, none of it is definitive in a way that, and your question is great. I mean, being skeptical about this is a good thing. I think we all need to be that way and not just jump to conclusions like they're all bad or they're all good.
Yeah. Again, there's more questions than answers. And
Yep.
Area 51, the government has had Area 51 for so many years. It doesn't exist. It's make believe, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, within the last so many years, oh, yeah, there is an Area 51. Yeah, I know that. Yeah. So, and then you talked about this on one of your shows, The Triangle. But that could be, is that the stealth that we have that the government doesn't tell us about till 10 years later after the fact? Like, some of the technology, I believe, is coming from another intelligence, such as fiber optics. We've jumped from the 80s till the 2000s with technology that you wouldn't even believe would exist. The chips and the cell phones and things to that nature. And you would say in the 80s, come on, it's not possible. Now look how far advanced we've become.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to talk with Colonel Corso before he passed away. This was at the 50th anniversary of the Roswell incident in Roswell, New Mexico. He was there, and I talked to him for a while, and I said, you have such, an amazing background, being part of the Eisenhower administration and things of that nature, and well respected. And now you come out with this book that some people would think you're crazy, So why did you do it? And it was a very simple answer to me. He said, because I think our grandchildren need to know the truth. Okay. And so I firmly believe that we have, crashed UFOs. We have alien bodies. The technology was reverse engineered, put into Bell Labs, put into Lockheed, put into all these other, this is what Eisenhower talked about, the military industrial complex. That is something that we need to be afraid of in a way, because of the control that they have. And so I think there's a lot more information there than almost in the halls of government, because they basically have been given that, and it's also gives the government a way out of answering FOIA type of requests, because they don't have the information. All the information is with these corporations, and they don't have to tell us shit.
Yeah, Obama was. I like Obama in a way because he was on on a TV show, and they asked him the question, "Are we alone?" And he said, "Look, there's things up in the sky that we don't know what it is. We can't explain it." And then he was honest. I like that.
Yeah,
he was honest. And we don't know, whether he knows or not. I don't know. Maybe the presidents don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a form of government that's so far advanced.
Yeah, I mean, we I guess Nixon probably knew. I don't know about Johnson. Reagan, I had a feeling that he did know based on his speech at the UN. So, Carter, of course, had his own experience.
Yeah.
And so I think, like Clinton, I think he asked about it, and then he got stonewalled on the whole thing. So, and maybe because the people in our government don't know, they don't know, and so which is a sad state of affairs, if you ask me. I think that's horrible. That they should at least know what the hell is going on. But
I agree with you.
yeah, yeah.
Let's talk about
But,
MUFON.
yeah. Well,
how did you get involved?
How did MUFON evolve?
No,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, in 1969, a couple of gentlemen, engineer types, founded it in Seguin, Texas, and for the scientific understanding of the phenomena. And it's been a nuts and bolts type of an organization for years and years and years. Then in 2007, I approached the international director at the time, James Carrion, and told him I thought he was missing the boat with regard to understanding what's happening with the abductees, the experiencers. And they had no protocol to handle these people. So they were getting phone calls, and they didn't know what to do with it, from people saying, "Hey, I've been abducted. I'd like to understand what's going on, and so can you help me?" And eventually, what happened was that my organization, OPUS, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, which I co-founded with Dr. Eugene Lipson back in 1994. I made a proposal that send me those people, and so the phone calls that were coming into MUFON were being directed to me, and so I was doing triage with these people and finding out what it is they wanted. And most of the people were looking to have a hypnotherapist work with them. And so I decided to set up a database of hypnotherapists around the country that I could refer people to. And so that's how it all got started. And subsequently, MUFON decided, the light bulb went off, that they should do this internally. And they set up the MUFON ERT, the Experiencer Resource Team, which I'm also a part of as a research consultant. And so they've been doing some fine work working with people. And also they have a referral network of therapists. And then OPUS, around the same time, set up a online support group, which is free and confidential, where people from around the world, we have almost 300 people in the group that are talking to one another 24/7, telling their stories, asking their questions. And that's proved to be a most significant benefit to these people, more so than I think anything else. They understand that they're not alone, and that they're having these experiences that are similar to other people. And we also did a study, again, about 2010, that was funded by MUFON, called the Omega-3 study, where we took 71 people that felt that they had been abducted, and 51 people that were a control group. And let me get the information on that. Let me read you what the findings are on this thing, okay? In general, abductees' experiences profile differently than do their comparison counterparts on a number of general psychological and specific neurological variables. Yet there are remarkable similarities between the experiential group and the comparison group. It should be noted that in no case did experiencers or comparison group participants show any signs of mental illness, where am I here? Okay, or personality disorder. Fantasy proneness does not appear to play a differentiating role between the experiential and the control groups. However, sensitivity to alternative realities and early and recurrent paranormal or psi experiences seem to play a role in the abduction experience. Childhood conflict, psychosocial tension, and abuse and trauma more than likely facilitate a dissociative coping style in later life. How much a part dissociation plays in the abduction experience remains an open question, but the Ring and Rosing 1990 abuse trauma dissociation pathway remains a viable descriptive, if not explanatory, principle. Both experience with and interest in the abduction phenomena have impact on how one's body is perceived to function, how one views the world and one's purpose in it, and how one defines or redefines one's faith, tradition, and beliefs. In essence, both experience with and interest in contact seem to change one's sense of self and one's worldview. And that seems to be a real common thing, where all these experiences seem to come away with this common thread that, first of all, we need to be better stewards of the planet. We need to be better to one another. We need to love one another more. We need, all very positive type of scenarios that these people come away with after their experience. Abductees' experiences believe that there is a sentient, purposive alien intelligence at play in their lives and at work in the world, but the intelligence's goals are seen to be more beneficent than malevolent, more benign than malignant. This, though, remains an open question and a point of doubt in the minds and hearts of some abductees' experiencers and some comparison control participants. It also remains a point of contention among abduction researchers. And the last thing I have here is the brain generally and the temporal lobes and limbic system more particularly play a mediating role in the anomalous experiences such as abduction. This in no way implies that abductions are all or only in the abductees' heads. Rather, it points to the likelihood of temporal ability as a preset or a precursor to extraordinary experiences. While it would be too reductionistic to claim that the brain creates such experiences, it is far-fetched to think that the brain plays an important part in the who and the what of extraordinary experience and how they are interpreted. So the bottom line, as I said, they're not fantasy prone. They're not crazy. So then what? A lot of these people have gone to psychiatrists or psychologists and they find out that they're perfectly sane, but then they have this issue that's going on with them. And so how do they deal with that? And so that's why Opus was basically created, to help these people by either giving them a referral to the therapist or to be part of a support group. And also we also have medical and mental health practitioners as well.
Wow.
Well,
That's amazing.
It is, but that's why the government, in a sense, should come forward, because then you're giving people that are with high credibility a bad name because they're saying, hey, I was abducted. These things are happening to me. And the general population thinks you're a fool or you're stupid because they don't believe in it. But yet, the big people behind the closed doors know what's really going on. And it's sad for the person that's having these experiences. And it's thankful that you have your operation going, which is good. But there's a lot of people out there that are having similar experiences, and it's not fair to them. Benny, Barney Hill, all these cases, it's not fair. They're being humiliated in some senses. You have your believers, and then other cases, like people laugh at them. And that's not fair, because they should be treated right. Like, no, we know what's going on, and we're going to try to help you, versus we don't know what's going on. We don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the mental health community is not more aware. And matter of fact, that's why we did the phase 1 of the omega-4 study, to go out to therapists to get their feedback, which we're going to publish in a peer-reviewed journal shortly. And we're going to send this out to the mental health community to show them this is what's going on. This is how you can work with these people. This is something again, that these people do not have a psychopathology, and so it's important to be open-minded about this. And so we will be doing that aggressively to try to make that more available to the mental health community and to educate them as far as what's going on. It's if you look at the Roper poll that was done in 1992, that Bud Hopkins and David Jacobs, along with Robert Bigelow, who funded it, they came up with a number like 6 million people had been abducted at that point in the United States. And this is a worldwide phenomenon. And that was in 1992. So how many more people have been abducted or had this kind of experience? And so it's a process that's ongoing. It's probably been going on for eons. This is not a recent phenomena. It's just recent to most people simply because of the technology that we have now, that we can communicate the way we do. And, the cell phones that we have and the internet that we have and all of this, which is, quite amazing. You just need to understand that, people like Kit Green and Gary Nolan from Stanford University have been working with these abductees that claim to have contact with non-human intelligences, and they found that there's some peculiarities in their brain makeup in this area called the caudate and the putamen area, where there's connections in those areas that are quite significantly increased in people that claim that they have psychic ability, and they're able to communicate telepathically with these intelligences. And then they come to find out that this is generational, and they find out that their parents have had this, and they haven't talked about it, or their grandparents have had this. So it's like the old chicken and the egg. Did they have this capability because the non-human intelligences messed with our DNA, way back when? And so now we have that capability, or is this something that we have had, naturally, but has been energized or caused to come about because of contact? And again, it's a question that we don't have an answer to. And so in the book that I've recently written, The Unknown Other and the Existential Proposition of Alien Contact, I go through all the physical, the psychological, things that are going on. We talk about implants, we talk about hybrids, we talk about the U.S. government, the UAP report, we talk about the omega-3 study, which is the full study of the 71 people that were experiencers compared to the 51. We talk about, the Neolithic period in the cave drawings and things of that nature. And then we talk about automatic writing that people seem to be compelled to write. And none of it unfortunately has been translated. It just people seem to just be compelled to write this thing. And then we have pictures of the marks on the bodies, the scoop marks and the triangular patterns and things of that. So I've tried to give a real broad brush overview of the phenomena. And I think for people that have not really, dug into it deeply, this would be a good book for them to really get a great overview and some insight into the phenomena. And then I have like 25 stories from people that were part of are part of the support group, telling their stories and their experiences.
Where can people find the book?
It's on Amazon. And you can go to our website, which is opusnetwork.org. And the homepage has a picture of the book on there, and you just click on that, and that'll take you to Amazon, and you can buy the book there. The book is $20 in paperback, and then if you're a Kindle user, it's $9.99, and if you're a Kindle Prime user, it's free. So, and all the proceeds from the book go directly to Opus. I don't get a penny for it. That's my contribution, and I think this is so important to be able to keep doing what we're doing to help these people.
I'll tell you straight out, after my experience, I'm happy that you're doing this. I think there should be centers in every state where people who have experiences can go to and talk, instead of being humiliated, especially people in the corporate world and your average Joe who says that they've been through something, and, you know, everybody just looks at him like he's got something wrong with him. Hey, has there ever been a case that you came aware of where there's been an autopsy on a deceased person and a chip was found?
Well, you know, one of the things I talk about in the book is Dr. Roger Lear and his experience with 17 people where they actually excised these implants. Okay, so there was no need for an autopsy. These were live people. Let me tell you what they found. This is very interesting. So, first of all, there's no inflammatory rejection reaction by the body to these foreign objects. That's number one, which is unusual in and of itself. No visible portal of entry. Collections of specialized nerve endings surrounding the object. An outer coating of a ceramic biological material. A metallic phase where inorganic metal becomes biological tissue. The emission of radio waves, which are deep space frequencies in the FM band, electromagnetic fields in excess of 10 milligauss, composition of meteoric iron 66, rare earth metals such as U-236, a single isotope of uranium existing by itself, as well as elements such as uridium, which is very rare and hard to find in the Earth's crust. Non-terrestrial isotopic ratios indicating the involved elements did not come from Earth, and the existence of carbon nanotubes, gold spheres, which have unknown function. So, I mean, it's remarkable, you know, the findings that Dr. Lear was able to come up with.
That's fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
We're at the end of the show. We want to thank you for coming on. I will go too quick. Where can people find you, and what do you have going on next? And we definitely want to do a part 2 with you.
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we're just kicking off the phase 2 of the omega-4 study, which is going out to the clients of the therapist. And so we'll be kicking that phase off. So probably the appropriate time would be to maybe talk about the phase 1 in more detail, and then the phase 2 in a future show. But you can find us at opusnetwork.org, and that'll give you a place where, if you're looking for support, there's a support button on there that you can click. It gives you some options as far as what you would like to have happen, and then a very short questionnaire that we would like you to fill out, and then it goes to either myself or a couple of other people in the organization. We do a little triage, and then we either give you information on hypnotherapists or get you into the support group. And I literally get 2 to 3, maybe 4 a week of people looking for help in one way or another. So opusnetwork.org is the place to go, where you can click on the book or get the kind of help that you're looking for.
Okay. Well, Lester, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you for your services as well. I also want to give a shout out to the people in chat. Michelle, I think Christine, who's that? It's Piper? But thank you for joining us in chat and listening to the show. Lester, you're full of
Yeah,
knowledge.
this is a great show, a lot of knowledge tonight. We really enjoyed having you on.
Well,
Yeah.
I tell you guys, I really appreciate being on your show, and thank you for what you're doing too, because you're trying to get the word out on,
Yeah.
on varied topics, and so God bless you and thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
And special thank you to Carnation for fully sponsoring this show. We love them, and please join us next Monday night on the United Public Radio Network on 105.3 FM from New Orleans. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great, safe night, and we'll see you next week. We are not alone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.